It's VIR. It's a Speed Sunday, and we have our second race of the weekend for the Mustang Challenge here in the Michelin GT Challenge at VIR. Great to have your company. Our coverage on radio and on World Feed TV of the Mustang Challenge brought to you by Ford. Built Ford proud. And hello to everyone at Ford Performance who've been working very hard recently to make sure that the Mustang Challenge cars are here, and the first tranche of Mustang Challenge, which will be running in the Mustang Cup in Australia next year, are ready to head off down under. In the IMSA Global Broadcast Centre, my name's John Hindorf, and alongside me is Arjuna Kankapati, and we'll be talking you through a 45-minute race that takes place on one of the most picturesque racing circuits anywhere in the world. Just outside of, just across the border, actually. In fact, depending on where you're staying here, you do have to cross the state border a couple or three times, just outside Danville, and 3.5 miles, 17 corners around this circuit. Climbs up to turn 12, the highest point of the track where the old oak tree used to be. Succumbed to a lightning strike a few years ago. But target areas for overtaking will be down into turn 1 on the curving front stretch, and then again at turn 14 after that long back straight. And it is a very long back straight. There's a couple of little rises in that before you get to turn 14, the roller coaster, and drop down the hill back on to the run to the line. Run to the line here as well, so we might see some positional changes as we come to the checkered flag. Yesterday was our first race of 2 this weekend, and as ever we had a fantastic race as we had the 14 cars split 7 and 7 between Dark Horse Legends and the Dark Horse cars going to the green flag. Very early on, Joe Daedricks into the pit lane with some damage to the front splitter of the car, and then we had to do a little bit of clean-up after Tom Tate's car, the competition motor machine number 8, went off the circuit and dropped a little bit of its essential fluids. Got back to green again, and it was a battle between the silver number 48 of Zachary Lee and the number 33, the olive green and orange car of Alex Bashura. They came together on a couple of occasions. Then Alex charging through the field on Alfonso Diaz, gets the pass made and started to try to pull away, but then down the inside at the left hook, it was a bit of a swing from Alfonso Diaz. He got penalised for the contact on Bashura's car. No sucker to Alex, who couldn't get to the end of the race. Zachary Lee had pulled away. He gets through to take the checkered flag in the Dark Horse Legends class. Out in front, didn't talk about him that much. It was another win for Robert Noaker, who extends his lead and his winning run in the 2025 championship. He has been the star man at the front of the field this year and picks up another VP Racing Fuel checkered flag for his collection. We are now, I mean, I just don't know, Arjuna, what we can say anymore about Robert Noaker, because of he has been so good, and he's off the front row of the grid today. Just before we get into it, we do have something a little different. There's our pole sitter, and I'll run down the grid for you in a moment. Yesterday, we had something that in my long years, and I've been over here since 1998, I first started covering American sports car racing, and I started covering sports car racing professionally in 1989. And in all my years, I've never had this happen. The number 84 car of Torre Racing, Paolo Salvatore, he managed to get on the podium yesterday, and he had made a a commitment, shall we say, to his girlfriend that if he got on a podium this year in that blue and white car, then they would get married. Now, he finished third, so we have had a wedding. Now, I'm not sure if it's happened yet, but it will happen today if it hasn't. Someone close to the IMSA paddock will be officiating. We'll give you details of that when we find out. But thanks to his third place yesterday, Paolo Salvatore is going to be a married man before the end of today, if it hasn't happened already. I suspect it hasn't, because he's been preparing for the race. He knows he is on camera at the moment. He is waving at us in the pit lane. So I'm not sure if the IMSA official can find out for me if the wedding has taken place or not, and then give us a yes or a no. I know that Johnny Knotts is talking to his pit lane team down there, trying to find this out. Something that I've never had to commentate on, a wedding in a pit lane or at a racetrack. But congratulations. I don't have the details of Paolo Salvatore's fiancée, but we wish them both the best, and him good luck and good driving for today. That was a new one on me, Arjuna. I can't imagine you've had anything like that in your motorsport career.
No, definitely not. And I don't have the experience of you either, John. So for you not to have seen this, I think that kind of says it all. The wedding hasn't happened just yet. They're going to tie the knot
right
as soon as this race is done. Once the podium ceremonies are over, it will get turned over into a wedding venue, and the bells will start going off. And it's such a great story, John, because they talked about this at Laguna Seca first, and they came close last time out at Road America, but with the result yesterday, I had the chance to catch up with Michelle, his partner, who is also the team manager for the Toro Racing crew. And John, this is a true
Brilliant
family effort to make their way into this Mustang Challenge Series, because not only is the sponsor on the side of the car the business that they work on together during the week, but one of the sponsor logos they have is just quite legitimately a you and me, just going to show just how much that they together love their racing. And I can't wait to see the smiles on their face when they tie the knot in about an hour's time.
Right, so now what we have to do is try and find Michelle and put her on camera in the pit lane. We're not missing anything on the track. The cars are still on the pit lane. We're on a slight hold at the moment because of some fluid that was put down during the Mazda MX-5 race. And therefore, we're on a slight competition hold at the moment. And Robert Noyager will lead the cars around. Another big crowd here at VIR. They love their sports cars. So a very knowledgeable crowd as well. Anybody that you bump into will have a chat with you about the nuances of what's been going on across the weekend. Already had an unusually third VP Challenge race. That was the makeup race from the race lost to weather at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. We had the Mazdas out this morning as well. And this is the final race before the Michelin GT Challenge itself. The Mustangs have been released onto the circuit behind our awesome Mustang GT3, which is acting as safety car. Let's have a quick look at the starting grid. 7 Dark Horse legends, 7 Dark Horse entries. Alex Bashura then, starting at the back of the number 33 Spark Performance car, has Joe Dedricks for company on row number 7, Robert Noyager racing car. Then it's NV Autosport, Stephen Verger in the 10, and he's got the number 87 of Doug Peterson Racing Group LLC alongside him. Tom Tate and Paolo Salvatore in his last race as a single man, I think we can say now, as he's lining up third in the Dark Horse Legends on the inside of row 5. Tate Pritt for Automatic Racing is on the outside of row number 4, the number 98 Mustang Dark Horse R. He's got Zachary Lee yesterday's Dark Horse winner for McCumbee Racing in the Silver Bullet, the 48, the mirror car. In 5th in Dark Horse Legends, 6th in the overall Tech Sports, Colin Harrison in the number 21 with Marcus Ventos for company. Marcus Vento for company, excuse me, for McCumbee Racing. That's the number 18 car. Sandy Satulo, 3rd in Dark Horse Legends, has Alfonso Diaz for Tech Sport, the Dark Horse Legends pole sitter alongside him on the 2nd row of the grid. And lining up on the front row on the outside, Devin Anderson in the number 22, and Robert Noega Racing looking to take another triple here this weekend, as he has done, well, countless times this season. The Robert Noega Racing number 13 car, the man who is running away with this championship. He will be on pole position in that number 13, the blue and white car. Lights are out on the safety car as they come down Madison Avenue to the top of the roller coaster. And to be honest, in the season so far, we have only seen Arjuna a couple of times when Robert Noega has come under the briefest amount of pressure, either on a start or a restart. 81 Fahrenheit in the air, which is 26 Celsius. That's 91 on the track, a little cooler than yesterday, quite a lot cooler than yesterday on the track for the Michelin tyres, 33 Celsius. No one has managed to put sustained pressure on Robert Noega in the substantive part of this championship season here in North America, at least. I'm not talking about what happened at Le Mans, but my goodness me, what a season he's putting together.
Absolutely, and I did chat with Devin Anderson. He was saying, John, he needs to survive the first 3 laps, stay close enough. He's made a whole bunch of setup changes with the hope that fewer yellows, a long green flag run, he can push the tempo through the 45 minutes.
Right, that's interesting. That is interesting. So he thinks that Noega might have some chink in his armour, might be vulnerable if he can stay close enough to him. We go green. The revs on the V8 rise. The 45-minute starts as they cross the line. And down towards the first corner, there was a little bit of bumping and barging at the back, and we've already got 2 cars pulling off towards the side of the circuit. Now, we may be able to carry on here. Noega has got away and pulls away significantly from Devin Anderson at side-by-side behind as Sandy Satulo comes into 3rd position ahead of Alfonso Diaz. Zachary Lee's had a bang from behind, and that I think was one of the cars that went off. That was the 2 cars that are off at the end of the pit lane as Doug Peterson for Peterson Racing Group, and I think it was Alex Bashura as well for Spark Performance, the number 33. I can't see either of those cars there, and we have gone full course yellow straight away. Well, definitely Bashura with the hood, the bonnet's popped up on his car. See above comment for the yellow, red, white and blue, number 87 of Doug Peterson, who's not had a great weekend anytime he's been out on the track. And there's various bits of under tray and car parts spread around there. AMR safety team already there. This kind of good and bad news for the guys trying to get up the field. That was as they were coming to green. There was a couple of little nudges further up the field as well. I think Sandy Satulo was hit from behind, but they were a little more substantive as they were trying to get on the throttle. Robert Noega held them, as is his right, until he decided to go green. So a very short run indeed for those 2 drivers, Alex Bashura and Doug Peterson. Good news, bad news. I mean, bad news for the drivers who aren't racing right now, but it does give Devin Anderson another crack at a restart on Robert Noega here. And he had lost 2 or 3 cars lengths on that original side-by-side start. He's now got to get right under the rear wing of Noega when we eventually go back green again, Arjuna.
And in the way the IMSA start system works, John. Only the leader is really aware of the start zone, and so I think this is the first time, or yesterday rather, was the first time that Devin Anderson started in second and exited the opening corner in second as well. Often he's been swamped and moved down to third. You can see the disappointment from Doug Peterson. And John, I just looked up out of the window at the start. I almost think that there are a couple of machines that preempted the jump from Robert Nowaker, because it did look as though there was damage on the cars before the 13 started to accelerate in towards the opening corner.
So, in behind the Mustang Dark Horse, which serves as our safety car for the Mustang Challenge, it's big brother, big and beefier brother, the GTD, in its new all-carbon bodywork, that new finish that we're celebrating this weekend with a change of livery on the two race cars, the 64 and 65 Multimatic Mustang GT3s, with the ultra line accents on those cars later on today. And that one will be out later on, and trust me, you can tell the difference. It's quite a lot wider, different air intakes on the front of the car and the bonnet. Give you all the details on that later on. However, I'll be quite happy with the Mustang Dark Horse, a very competent street and track day car, and of course the car on which these Dark Horse R's are all based. So Robert Nowaker, Devin Anderson, Sandy Satulo, Marcus Vento, Alfonso Diaz leads Dark Horse Legends, although he got shuffled back a couple of positions there. Then Colin Harrison, Zach Lee with damage to the rear valance of his car, number 48 in 7th. He's the second in Dark Horse Legends. Tom Tate third in Dark Horse Legends, he's in 8th. Top 10 made up by Tate Pri and Paolo Salvatore. Then Stephen Verger, Joseph Dedricks, Doug Pedersen and Alex Bashura with problem. Now, I was talking about that liquid carbon finish for the Mustang GT3 that we'll see as our safety car in the in the WeatherTech Championship. It looks absolutely incredible. I'm not even sure how that is done. And so it's full carbon for the race cars with those ultra lime highlights. But our safety car for the WeatherTech, those extended wheel arches and the big reverse swan neck rear wing, that again, full carbon bodywork, but with a finish that makes it look like you can put your hand into it. Quite extraordinary how the team at Ford Performance have been able to do that. The GTD is a street legal car and will be available in extremely limited numbers. The Dark Horse is, if you like, the top of the Mustang range. And that's what is pacing the field right now. Huge amount of crossover between the street cars and the racing cars that we have here, the Dark Horse R, and including the engine and gearbox, all of the running gear, most of the body panels as well. Obviously the racing cars have additional safety equipment. Indeed, Ford Performance are so keen for the teams in this championship to know how many parts come from the street car. They actually provide a handbook with a parts list with the standard Ford parts number for all of the bits that you can go down to your local Blue Oval dealer and buy directly off the shelf. Now that's good news for two reasons. One, because there's no markup, there's no performance markup for those pieces of bodywork or pieces of equipment. And secondly, it's to have let's go to Arjuna.
Yeah, one thing, John, that I was trying to follow up on from yesterday was we saw Sandy Satullo come into pit lane in that number 7, and the bonnet came up and we weren't exactly sure what the reason was. They had the opportunity to replace the battery. That's what they thought was the issue, but what actually happened, John, was the alternator was failing, and so Satullo was having to short shift to keep the car running through that first race. And he had already had to switch into a backup car after qualifying because the engine had started to go into limp mode on his main machine. So it's great to see him back out there and being able to fight at the full potential of the Dark Horse Mustang, and currently sitting in a podium position.
Well done on him and the team for that. Running with the full performance racing skill. Just to finish my last thought before we went to Arjuna there, the other part of that parts story is that the teams are encouraged to form a relationship with their local blue oval dealer. And many of them have done that. Looks like the safety car has pulled away. Yes, it has. So we have run down the clock to 36 minutes or thereabouts, and Robert Noaker has to do it again. When will he go? The answer is straight out to the final corner, but this leaves Devin Anderson an opportunity here. He's still just about in the draft. Will he be able to drag up and make a passing attempt at the first corner? He's closing down, moves slightly to his right, comes off the brakes, looks down the inside but can't get alongside, can't get the overlap. Third place for that Sandy Satullo, Robert Noaker car in the backup, and he's now side by side with Marcus Vento. Lovely manoeuvre by the Valvoline car, another classic livery, and that car now up to the third, big slide through NASCAR Bend. Through the left hook then for the leader. The number 22, Devin Anderson, then must try to hold on the leader. As Arjuna told us, he's made some changes to the car. He thinks on a long green flag run he might have something for the man who's boss to the championship. He's just about holding on at the moment, round about half a second between first and second, same sort of gap between second and third, with 35 minutes still to run here at VIR in the second race of the weekend. Still 4 races to run for the Full Performance Mustang Challenge in 2025. 2 races supporting the World Endurance Championship in COTA at the early part of next month, and then their season finale on the Rhodes Oval Circuit, the Roval Circuit at Charlotte Motor Speedway, supporting NASCAR. And we must mention, if we talk about that event at the end of the season, it's very sad to hear of the death recently, a couple of days ago, of Humpty Wheeler, a true giant of American motorsport. He did so much for Charlotte Motor Speedway, for many drivers coming through in the early parts of their career, and for stock car racing in general. I was fortunate enough to meet him on a couple of occasions, and indeed did a broadcast from his private suite at Charlotte Motor Speedway in the days of the American Le Mans Series, when we had the sports car on the previous version of the Roval at CMS. And to say that he was a character would be a gross understatement. He leaves behind a huge amount of friends and acquaintances in motorsport, and of course we pass our condolences on to his family and all that knew him. The words legend is bandied about, often rather too frequently, but in this case it doesn't even begin to tell the story of Humpty Wheeler. May he rest in peace and may his memory be a blessing. 12 minutes gone, Arjuna. Robert Noaker has stretched out to 0.6 of a second, but I think those changes that Devin Anderson made might be doing the trick, because he's not getting away here. Noaker still in sight at the front of the field as they come out of Oak Tree.
We did see Anderson put the pressure on about until the halfway mark of race number 1, John, when that speedy dry went down onto the track after oil spilled, particularly at turn 1 and turn 3. And it seems as though Robert was just an expert at finding the right path. You don't want to drive through the speedy dry if you can avoid it, and so he was just masterfully able to manage that situation. For Anderson right now, again, I'll go back to a long green flag run, because on a short run, John, it's quite easy to set the car up, maybe get those tire pressures a little bit higher and just make the car fire off initially that little bit harder. It can be more difficult to let the car build in to the end of the race, and Devon's kind of banking on that right now. He's looking very comfortable as well, though. The fact that he went for the look to the inside on the race restart tells me a lot, John. He's feeling very comfortable with the changes and how the tech support team have dialed in the 22.
Yeah, that's a different looking gap to that which we saw yesterday. And keeping him in sight was the idea. They're pulling away from Marcos Vento in third, and off at touch Paolo Salvatore at turn 1 at the Horseshoe. He's gone a long way off, but the track is slightly uphill. Gets a bit of wheel spin, but it's dry. He's lost the rear diffuser. And probably going to get a mechanical black flag for that on the downhill braking area. Turns in, loses the back end of the car on his own, just drifts wide and spins around, and as he's going backwards, the diffuser dug in and has folded up on itself underneath the rear of the car. Just hitting the rev limiter by the sound of that as he was heading up through the S's. Now, actually, he's not done as much damage to that rear under tray as I thought he had. No. And then, of course, I see it flapping around in the breeze. I have a suspicion he'll be called into the pits there, Arjuna, to have that some remedial work done on the back end of that number 84 car.
Last thing race control wants is for it to come dislodged, and therefore the safety car needed to go and clear debris once again. Let's not forget, though, Paolo was off at turn 1 in yesterday's race as well and fought his way back into podium contention. So knowing how difficult this track is, how narrow it is, and the challenge that these drivers are having to face, wouldn't be surprised if he still is able to find his way back into the fight. And speaking of fights, looks like Sandy Sottulo's closed back up to Marcos Vento in that fight for third.
Gets up onto the rear quarter panel for a moment as they exit turn 2 into 3 and 4. Two great liveries there, the red, white and blue stripes of the Ford Performance Driving School supported machine in 4th position, and an absolute classic Valvoline livery for Marcos Vento. That's Macumbi Macaulay Racing versus Robert Noacre Racing. Then 2 Tech Sports cars, Alfonso Diaz and Colin Harrison. Alfonso still leading the Dark Horse category in 5th position. Zach Lee for Macumbi Macaulay Racing in the number 48 is 2nd in that class, but Harrison between them is a Dark Horse runner, so we'll keep our eyes on that as well. Doug Peterson and Alex Bashura, if you're following those guys, I'm afraid they were out before they even got to the starter line, with a concertina effect coming to green, both of them with frontal damage on their Dark Horse Rs. The start will be reviewed post-race. What race control don't like is anybody at the sharp end of the field in the front couple of rows speeding up and slowing down. That can cause that type of accident that we had, so they'll be looking very carefully to make sure that there was nothing going on that could have caused that incident. But Arjuna, you had a decent view as you were looking out the window here on the start-finish straight, and you thought it might have been people being further down the field, just being a little more anxious to get on the throttle. We'll discuss that in a moment as Sottulo tries round the outside at the Horseshoe. Now he'll do the cutback onto the inside part of the circuit. It puts him on the wrong side for turn number 4, though. Not quite. Yeah, you seem to think, Arjun, at that start, it was people at the back getting a little over-enthusiastic and trying to get started early. Ooh, Satulo off the track, missed his braking point there, and he's not going to hold that, he's going to go around, and that's going to cost him 4th place, 5th place, 6th place as Zachary Lee goes through, 7th place, through goes Tate Pritt. Now he gets back onto the road, comes out, gets on the marbles, I think, here, and misses his braking point. Yeah, he's not bringing it back from there. And he's dropped back to 7th position, right ahead, actually, of Tate Pritt in the automatic racing car. Yeah, just going back to that start, Junior, you were thinking it might have been people being just a tad early on the throttle.
Just my first judgment from the quick glance up that I had as they worked their way across the start-finish line. But that's my first indication. We'll be curious to see what race control does decide. Obviously, in the IMSA rule set, not only are they going to be looking, John, at people on the accelerator and brake speeding up and slowing down, they might also be looking at the column formation, and if that was something that led the cars further behind into a slight misstep, if you will. And for Alex Bashura, he's just jumped out of a very different race car, a momentum-based race car, John, and this is a round of the championship which is bringing things in the favor of Alfonso Diaz, heading into the final 2 events of the championship, where Alex Bashura isn't going to have to be juggling the momentum-based car, the MX-5 he was just racing in, and this Ford Mustang. So he'll be hoping to put himself back in that championship mix next time out at the Circuit of the Americas.
Another rhythm-based racetrack with a couple of long straights involved as well, and these cars really do excel. The noise is just phenomenal, isn't it? Robert Noack has pulled the pin. He's put a couple of quick laps in last time around. The best is a 1:56.4. He's put a 57 flat in to Devin Anderson's a 57.4. So half a second taken out of second place by the leader that last time around. And all of a sudden, from being 6/10, it's now 2.2 seconds. And that's what Robert Noack can do to you. You think you've got the measure of him. You think you're matching him on your downshifts, your braking points, your turning points, and your acceleration out of the corners. But he's just doing it slightly better, slightly more aggressive on the throttle application, slightly later on the brakes, maybe a mile an hour or 2 quicker through the middle part of the corner, and then that 6/10 is over 2 seconds. And this must be so difficult for the rest of the field this year, Arjuna. Same car for everybody, and he's done this to everybody in the field all year. Devin Anderson gave it a good go in those first 7 or 8 laps, and certainly after the restart. But Noack has still managed to find more pace in that number 13 car.
Last year, Tyler Maxson put a bit of a challenge on Robert Noack, but this year it's that consistency, John, and anyone who's done any sim racing will be able to attest to jumping into, an iRacing session and finding one of those aliens, as sometimes we call them, the drivers that every lap they can hit that same braking marker, can turn in with the same level of precision. But Robert Noack, it's not just the driving that's so impressive, John. It's the fact that he runs the team as well. He's not just focusing on building himself up and going as fast as he can, but he's building that program around him, which for such a young driver, so mature, is the 21-year-old from Pennsylvania. We are going to run out of superlatives at some point to describe the season that he's having and the run he's put together.
I mean, mathematically, we can't crown him yet. I think at one stage in the middle of the season, the rest of the competitors were quite happy to club together and buy him a 3-month cruise to keep him out of the paddock, to give someone else a go at the top step with the podium. But really, this has been a masterclass this year for Robert Noack and his Robert Noack racing team. has to juggle the responsibilities of running the team as well with his own driving ambitions, and make no mistake, his goal is to be a works GT or sports car driver and be racing at the very top. And you absolutely cannot deny that he's put himself in absolutely the best position for that, Arjuna.
And you brought up that he was somewhat challenged at the Le Mans Invitational, but I was talking to Jensen Alton yesterday, and he was saying transitioning from the GT4 into the Dark Horse was quite interesting for him, and had to really look at how Robert was driving the car and kind of temper his approach and dial it back slightly, not attack as much as he did in the GT4 car. And that's just so interesting to hear from a driver like Jensen Alton, also part of the Ford Performance Junior program alongside Robert Noaker. Shout out as well to Scott Bartlett at Ford Performance, John, who's just sent me a note. Robert Noaker not only runs the team, not only drives the 13 at the front of the field consistently, he also drives the race hauler to the races as well. So once he's packed up the race car, he's driving back to the shop with that machine.
Yeah, and mounts the tyres, washes the truck, puts up the, I mean, incredible stuff. At each race of the Ford Mustang Challenge, we highlight either some drivers or a team. Well, we've been talking about Robert Noaker and Robert Noaker Racing. So let's have a look at the 3 entries that are out of that hauler that Robert has driven here himself in the Ford Performance team update here in race 2 at VIR. Well, the man with his name above the door is first, and first in class. Sandy Satulo slipped back a little bit to 6th in Dark Horse, 8th overall, and Joe Dedricks in the number 63, he runs 11th and 5th in the Legends. I say that, and maybe we're going to get a 7th. Yes, we are. Perfect timing. Sandy Satulo, as we're talking about him, in that red, white and blue car, goes from 8th to 7th. Nicely done, Sandy. And Joe Dedricks didn't have the perfect day yesterday with early damage to the car, but the white car with the blue numbers, and that designates, along with the door mirrors and the wing end plates, that is a Dark Horse Legends car, running 5th in the Legends at the moment. That's our Ford Performance team update, looking at Robert Noaker Racing for this race, and we'll have another 3 drivers next time out at the first race at the Circuit of the Americas in the first week of September. Can't wait to be going back to Austin. We are very fortunate to have racetracks in some very cool places and a lot of variety. Here at VIR, a green and pleasant land. Some fabulous roads that you have to drive to get here. Great atmosphere at the track and great hospitality nearby. Mustang Challenge off to certainly the Americas next time out, so then you've got the delights of Austin and the weirdness of Austin, which is celebrated quite significantly. Now, Paolo Salvatore, after that spin for Torre Racing's number 84 car, well, he might be able to get into his wedding garb slightly earlier. He missed us earlier on. He's going to get married to his fiancée at the end of this race, courtesy of the fact that he promised he would if he got on the podium. He was on the podium yesterday, so he and Michelle are going to get married after this race. He went off in turn 1 and did some damage to the under tray, which is now beginning to come loose at the back of the car, and race control have asked him to come in and have that looked at. Yeah, there's a big piece of underbody flapping around, a bit to hear that as well. So we wish him well for the upcoming nuptials. Plenty to celebrate this weekend then. Podium yesterday and becoming a married man today. He should be able to remember his wedding anniversary, I would reckon, then, Arjuna. He's going to have no excuse to forget the date, is he, after his first podium yesterday at Mustang Challenge?
You'd certainly hope so, that's for sure. And I get the feeling that maybe we'll see something on that car, maybe at the Circuit of the Americas, just to commemorate the occasion. With it being a family-run team, will be very interesting to keep an eye on that. Keep an eye on the front end, by the way, John, of Marcos Vento, because one of the connectors that holds the front splitter in place has come loose. Yeah. It's not causing any issues right now, but I'm just wondering if he's starting to feel a little bit of detrimental impacts at the front end of the car, especially given how hard he's being worked by Harrison in the 21.
It's the red, white, blue car. The left front splitter stay has come away at the top. Now the good news is that that is there just to help if there's a little bit of bumping front to back. It's not structural. It is there as an additional piece of support. That front splitter is affixed. We saw somebody lose that driving over a curb yesterday. I can't remember who it was now. And that black rubber is affixed to the bottom of the air dam, and those two metal stays are just there to give it a bit of extra support if there is any rubbing. Just going back to Paolo Salvatore, by the way, it is a tradition in the UK as now Devin Anderson from second place is in the support pit, or in the southern pit, on driver's left at the back straight. That's not the main pit where his team are. That is the southern end of the circuit. It can be run as a separate track. You can run two configurations at the same time. Indeed, we have the Patriot course in the middle of the circuit running at the moment. Michelin, if you're here at the circuit, go to the Michelin desk in the paddock, and if they've got any space, you can sign up to be driven around there by some of their experienced drivers. Michelin do a lot of their road car testing, street tyre testing here at VIR. Going back to Paolo Salvatore, who has come into the pit lane, dragging stuff behind a car. I don't know if it's the same in the US or over here, but in the UK, it is a bit of a tradition in some circles to either put shoes or cans under the front, under the rear bumper, and have the bride and groom drive away with those dragging behind, as well as the just married written on the back in tyre white or whatever, and various ribbons on the rest of the car. But dragging something down the road from the back of the car is supposed to be good luck after a marriage. Salvatore was doing that earlier on. Now Paolo's been into the pits and come out, and the offending bit that was hanging down is gone, so we can see a little more of the back of his Dark Horse R Mustang than we normally do. So he is back out on the circuit to complete and run to the checkered flag. How good do those titanium exhausts look as well? The Baller additional exhausts sound great as well. So Paolo continues on in 6th place in the Legends, 12th in the overall. He'll make up a position on Devin Anderson when he goes around next time. At the front of the field, Robert Noaker now with the demise of Devin Anderson, and that's too far away from us to get any news, I'm afraid, about what's happened to that car, but it must have been something wrong for him to pull off over there. Very sportsmanlike to do that, very sporting of him to pull off and not cause a full course yellow. The safety crews are there just in case there are any safety implications. Look like we've got a wrecker truck there to give him a tow. You can get back to the paddock from there. But now with the demise of that number 22, Arjuna, it is 22 seconds between Robert Noaker, Marcos Vento, and Colin Harrison looking for his best result of the season in Dark Horse in third as Paolo comes through the pit lane again. He was slightly too quick, 1 kilometre too quick through the pits. Actually, he only got a warning for that. I don't think he needed to come down the pit lane again. He may have misheard his team. So, I don't think it's going to make any difference. He's now moved up into 11th position, but he has fallen off the lead lap. This, in a season, Arjuna, where Robert Noeka has had very little competition, is looking to be one of his most dominant victories in a exceptionally dominant season.
And I think you've already said it, we can't crown him our champion just yet. The points calculation that I had done was that if Anderson continued the form, it would be around an 800-point advantage going into the final 2 rounds of the championship. Every event, the winner can grab a maximum of 740, so it could very well be that Noeka locks up the championship going out of the Circuit of the Americas rounds that we have coming up. It's going to be very interesting to keep our eye on. John, one storyline that I think is also quite cool is that Marcos Vento and Alfonso Diaz, in a field full of mostly American-based drivers, 2 Puerto Ricans competing, and from what I've understood, it's garnered a lot of support back in Puerto Rico as well. A country not known necessarily for a lot of motorsports heritage, but one of the few drivers, John, that the country has celebrated. Victor Gonzalez, who obviously raced in NASCAR for a whole bunch of years and now runs a team in the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge. So it's just great to see that Puerto Rico has a couple of drivers here in the Mustang Challenge that they can root for and support. And Diaz going to be taking the championship lead coming out of VIR.
In the Dark Horse Legends, yeah, Alfonso running in a strong 4th position at the moment, and as we mentioned, his name, the Tech Sport car is off. That is the literal curse of the commentator. I can't believe it. With just 10.5 minutes to go, Diaz at the side of the circuit. That's up at, is that just going into Oak Tree? Yes, I think it is, turn 11. And there was a little bit of steam coming from the front of the car. There's some contact damage to the right front of the car, and no sign of Alfonso trying to get that car moving. Oh my goodness me. Full course yellow, yeah, it is. Drivers left just into turn 11, the first part of the 2 Oak Tree corners at the southern end of the circuit. You couldn't script it, Arjuna. You couldn't script it. Have you been taking lessons from Johnny Palmer on how to curse drivers or green flag runs?
If you don't believe in the commentator's curse, well, there you are. And I don't know if Alfonso is going to be so happy for me to go and have another chat with him after the race. But that, John, the contact on the right front, the damage that you pointed out, that hadn't been there earlier in the race from anything that I had seen. So it's an odd place on the track to have damage to that part of the car, as you see the back end of Zachary Lee pushed in after some of the start kerfuffles that I think we had talked about slightly earlier. So very, very curious there for Diaz, and I think this now means that Zachary Lee could be our championship leader leaving VIR, but yeah, I'm going to have to go and run the calculations on that.
And that would be a second win in 2 races this weekend. The only other thing I could put forward as a theory, again, this is a theory because I can't remember whether that damage was done earlier on. If that damage had been done earlier on, has it affected the cooling system and that impact damage on the right front? And it's just taken 16 racing laps to manifest itself, and therefore Alfonso has driven the car off there, because it is an odd place to end up with an incident. And maybe he's just pulled up there with a temp warning or something, temperature warning or something like that, and that may be as a result of what happened right at the start of the race. We'd have to go back and have a look at Alfonso's car at that start line incident, and see if he was around the guys where it happened. So 7.5 minutes to go. The 22-second lead has disappeared. And so Marcus Vento takes up the cudgels and Colin Harrison to try and challenge Robert Noaker. It's going to be a flat tow by one of our AMR safety trucks. As if it wasn't bad enough for Alfonso to lose the potential lead of the championship in a race victory. He has the ignominy of a Ford being pulled away by a vehicle with a bow tie on it. And he heads not under his own V8 power. Very good afternoon to those of you who are trackside and watching on, listening on the PA system. And thanks to everybody at VIR for making sure that the sound from IMSA radio on RS2 and the IMSA TV broadcast goes out around the circuit. I know many of you will be burning a bit of data and watching on as well here at VIR. Virginia is for racing lovers. Isn't that the truth? 4 more races after this one. We've talked about COTA, our junior Kanka party. We'll finish off on the combined road oval circuit at Charlotte Motor Speedway.
And I've heard that at least one of the teams has gone testing there, John, and they've talked about tyre wear being very, very high. So it's going to be an interesting round from that perspective. But the story in the paddock is also that Sam Paley is going to rejoin us for those final 2 rounds of the championship. And he's coming off, John, a spectacular drive in yesterday's IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge race, where he finished second in the Core Motorsports number 60 Ford Mustang GT4. And he was one of the drivers at Road America that really did put the charge onto Robert Noaker. So as much as we're talking about dominance here at VIR from that 13 machine, it could be very interesting if Paley rejoins at Charlotte and really puts up a fight.
5 minutes still on the clock. The Dark Horse safety car has pulled away. And so, maybe one more opportunity for Marcus Vento or Colin Harrison or Sandy Satullo, now back up into 4th position, to challenge the man at the front of the field. Another good restart, but it's a pretty decent start as well. And the audacity of Marcus Vento, who's flashing his headlights at the runaway championship leader as they come down to the first corner. Robert Noaker Racing ahead of the Valvoline car. Down into the first corner, the leader goes a tad wide. Can Vento push back onto the inside? Colin Harrison in 3rd position in the orange and dark green car. Zachary Lee coming through the field as well. He's under pressure from Sandy Satullo. But these 3 are up there. Is there an opportunity now? Could this be a twist in the tail at the second race of this weekend? Noaker then. Well, he knows he's got a battle on his hands here, our junior. Just look at the body language of both of those leading cars. Beautiful flat slide going up the hill from Noaker, the Valvoline car. He's going off. I was just about to say he's matching him, but trying to match the man at the front of the field is no easy task. That mid-corner speed that we've been talking about is immense from Noaker. And Marcus Vento has lost 2nd. He's lost 3rd as well. So Noaker now from Colin Harrison in 2nd. Yeah, just understayed off on the marbles, I think, there. There'll be 3 minutes to go, just under 3 minutes to go now. So it will be 2 laps for the leader as he comes to the line this time. Don't think we're going to get the white flag. No, we're not. So Noega has broken the field again, Arjuna. Looked like he had a challenger there for a moment in Marcus Vento. This one and one more behind. Here comes Satulo. Satulo trying to salvage something. Almost gets the nose of his car taken off by Colin Harrison into that first corner. I think what we've just seen there on that restart is almost the season in... Oh, Zachary Lee's had damage. That's side-to-side contact at turn 1. There's another car involved, and it is, I'm afraid to say, Tate Pritt. And that is going to be a yellow flag. We're going to finish under yellow because that car will not move. Left front damage. And Zachary Lee then losing positions in that all-important Dark Horse Legends. He got absolutely nailed in the door. Full course yellow. I'll finish my thoughts, Arjuna, if I may, as we'll come to a safety car finish here. Time will elapse with that number 98 stranded with left front suspension damage. That restart, Robert Noega, a microcosm of the whole season there. You have somebody who for a moment thinks he's got half a chance and he's pushing Noega, and Noega is sliding the car around, and Marcus Vento staying with him. I've got a chance, I'm off the track. It is absolutely the story of the season.
And maybe if Vento had been in a Mustang GT4 car, he would have had the downforce to get through South Bend with the amount of speed that he was carrying. But again, it goes back to if you've been in a sim racing lobby and you've tried to follow one of those super fast guys, you try and brake where they brake, but you can't do what they're doing, right? It's so impressive how Noega has absorbed all of this pressure and just never broken, John. That's something else to consider, right? The fact that with all the challenges that he still had this season, don't make it sound like he's not been challenged, for example, at Road America by Sam Paley. But no mistakes, John. That is such a rare thing to see from a young driver. And again, we're running out of superlatives to describe him as, I believe, we might come and see the checkered flag, this time by at the line.
Well, it's possible. Let's see whether we go to safety car or checkers this time around. And it is the white flag, white and double yellows. So it will be, if you will, a lap of honour, a victory lap at slow speed behind our Dark Horse R safety car for Robert Noega. Time elapsed as he went across the line as they go past the stricken car of Tate Pritt. Now I'm just trying to work out, Paolo Salvatore is still running, so he might actually make up an overall position here. He might get into 9th if he comes across the line. Where is he? He's just crossed the line. No, he's going to be, he's still 1 lap away from Tate Pritt, but he'll still be 5th in Dark Horse Legends. Incredible. So, we've talked a lot about Robert Noega in Dark Horse Legends. The man who had the nightmare yesterday with engine oil running out of his car, Tom Tate, in the number 8 for Competition Motors, the yellow and green and red car, finishes in 5th and wins Dark Horse Legends. Funny old game, motor racing, isn't it? Nothing going for him, right for him yesterday. And today, keeps his nose clean, finishes the 45 minutes and what will be 21 laps as they come to the line, and picks up the top step of the Dark Horse Legends podium. Stephen Vager for NV Autosport will be 2nd in Dark Horse Legends, and Joe Dederich for Robert Noega in 3rd. Zachary Lee punched out of a victory and a 2nd victory this weekend in Legends, and that is going to have implications on the championship standings. I think Arjuna is recasting the numbers at the front. Again, subject to post-race technical inspection, it'll be Robert Noaker from Colin Harrison, Sandy Sotelo and Marcus Vento. Just the 4 Legends finishing, just the 5 Dark Horse cars finishing, and 5 Legends. So behind the Dark Horse R safety car, Robert Noaker continues his remarkable run of victories in 2025 and wins race 2 at VIR. He's got 4 more races in the season. Can he be invincible in 2025? He, of course, increases his championship lead as Devin Anderson finished down in 6th, didn't finish the race, finishes in 6th in the Legends. Not quite mathematically there yet, but he could wrap it up if he gets 2 good victories and his championship contenders do not claw back some points. He could wrap it up at the end of the next 2 rounds in Kota. The Dark Horse Legends has ebbed and flowed in that race, and we'll give you the machinations of that in a moment. Unofficial results then: Noaker, Harrison, Sotelo, the top 3 for Robert Noaker Racing, Tech Sport and Robert Noaker Racing. So 1st and 3rd for our Full Performance featured team this weekend, or this race. Marcus Vento, the unlucky man, in 4th position. And in the Legends, it's Competition Motors, NV Autosport and Robert Noaker Racing. So all 3 of the R&R cars that we were looking at earlier in our Full Performance update are on the podium. The big story: Zachary Lee bumped out of the lead of the DHL, the Dark Horse Legends race, at the very last, as we were going on to the second to last lap, and that will affect the championship in Legends. Robert Noaker increases his lead substantially on Devin Anderson, with Devin down in 6th and Robert taking the win. Another picture-perfect race. He withstood a couple of brief bouts of pressure from behind in the race today, but Robert Noaker continues this incredible run of results and form in the 2025 Mustang Challenge season. Arjuna, what have you got for us in Dark Horse Legends? That is not what Zachary Lee needed, dropping from 1st to 4th in the Legends finishing order.
Well, first thing is built for tough with this Dark Horse Mustang. That car took a big lick, but glad to see Zachary still able to finish the race. My math has got it at 2,410 points for Zachary Lee, which should still be enough for him to hold the championship lead. But John, I think Tom Tate's also taken a leapfrog forward with this victory. Don't think he's going to quite be in front of maybe Diaz or Bashura, but it could be a 4-car fight for the championship with 4 races left to go.
We've seen it happen before, where last corners of last races of seasons in these IMSA Manufacturer Championship have given us the championship standings. Arjuna Kangapati was alongside me, John Hindhoff, in the Full Performance Global Broadcast Centre. It's something that we probably could record and just play on repeat. Robert Noaker does the triple again, double triple this weekend, fastest lap, pole position, a race win twice over, and Tom Tate takes the Dark Horse Legends. We'll see you at the Circuit of the Americas next time out.